Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. You guys know what time it is. Time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And as I've said before, I'm not going to do a whole lot of these. You'll see some here and there. I don't want it to be a major part of my channel anymore. But sometimes some things get sent to me that I feel like they're important enough that maybe I should say something. Now, when I'm going to talk about this situation with Richard, aka Vegan Gains, versus Eddie Hall, I do not want people to think that I am speaking from some place of high morality. I don't want it to come across that I'm perfect. I have certainly said and done things online over the years, including on YouTube, that I personally regret. I've even said things in the past that I have felt the need to apologize for. So I am by no means perfect or without, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not above criticism, let's put it that way. And I accept that fact. But the difference is that I have accepted a lot of things that I've said wrong or done and said, you know what? Shouldn't have said that. It was wrong. It was stupid. There are times when we have to be able to do that. So again, I don't want people to think that I have never made mistakes or said stupid things or said things I shouldn't have ever on the internet, because I clearly have. I own that. I accept that. So now that that's out of the way, let's come over and talk about the sheer amount of mental illness we see from the vegan community. And Richard really and truly highlights that. And he wants to talk about the vegan diet being this healthy thing and always tries to put studies, like made this big argument about cancer. The overall meta-analysis and studies have never found that vegans have a lower rate of cancer than the general population on a standard American diet. So let that sink in. You have no grounds to stand on. Veganism doesn't seem to help with cancer at all. And I'm not saying there aren't some carcinogenic foods that people who eat meat eat, because they clearly do. That's not in debate. However, dairy isn't one of them, by the way. Dairy isn't linked with cancer when you look at the meta-analysis. That's meta-analysis. So he goes through all that spiel and acts like veganism is somehow some cure for cancer. It really isn't. The data doesn't support that. And yet he doesn't want to talk about the mental illness aspect. The thing that has been found, and this is what we want to focus on, this is one of the reasons I am so anti-vegan. The studies that have looked at mental illness have found that vegans as a demographic have massively higher rates of mental illness than the general population. It's very statistically significant in studies that have looked at it. Now, correlation does not equal causation, because the argument becomes, do mentally ill people get drawn to veganism at a higher rate? That's a possibility. Or do the deficiencies of the vegan diet basically rot your brain? And I think the truth is probably a combination. I think it's a combination of the two. And I think people who are, only someone who's mentally ill is going to oftentimes be seriously drawn to veganism and say, that's a phenomenal idea. Not always the case, but as a demographic, you can see that, because it's an irrational mindset, and it's an irrational diet, not based upon logic and reason, but rather on appeal to emotion. So again, people who have struggle in some cases with their mental faculties, that could be appealing to those. But we see it in the literature. But also we see that people who go vegan, once they go vegan, they just become crazier and crazier. And we see it all the time. And I see it even with people who claim they're sane vegans. A good friend of mine, Tommy, who is a former vegan, who is his doctors and dietitians forced him off veganism, and then he realized it was killing him because of his own set of problems. Even he has crazy vegans who he knew who still like attack him, and they go crazy and just ravenous on him because they're psychotic. And they don't see it. And I think the thing I want to say with this with Richard, I want you to step back and look at what you're doing here. Okay, you went so far as to, on a video with tens of thousands of views, to stand up and take World's Strongest Man winner Eddie Hall, who would eat you. Okay, Richard, I want you to understand, don't even pretend like you could fight him. Because some of his fans, his crazy vegan fans, are going and putting in the comments that they think that, if you go look at Eddie's videos, in that video, he's got commenters, vegan fans are saying, I think Vegan Gains could take him. If he could just, he's got long arms and all this nonsense, right? They think Richard can actually fight. Richard can't fight. He's weak and he's out of shape with a bad knee. Okay, he's never going to be allowed in any sort of fighting ring with his medical history in any sort of fight, by the way. So he likes to challenge everyone to fights, but he knows he probably couldn't get medical clearance to do it. So he'll have a good cop out if he ever does really someone accepts it, because someone has before and he backed out. Okay, he challenges everyone to fights, and then all his fans run around and pretend like, oh, they're a pussy if they don't want to fight a crippled guy who's mentally ill for free. He wouldn't be allowed in a ring. He wouldn't get medical clearance to get into an actual real fighting match, like in a ring with an audience and stuff. Right? He wouldn't get medical clearance to do it. He's pretty broken. And we've discussed why in the past. But he always challenges people like this to fight. But Richard, I want you to stop and think through what you just did. You bullied this man's little child. And that's something I think people need to think about too. Look, and I'm not talking about, oh, precious snowflakes and we need to coddle snowflakes or any of that social justice nonsense. I don't believe in that. But by that same token, you're a grown man bullying a little child. What is that boy, like 9 years old, 10 years old? I don't know. Just a ballpark guess. You basically got up in front of a massive audience and bullied a guy who deadlifts over 1,000 pounds, who actually is known for being very aggressive. Eddie's not like this nice guy. Okay, I like Eddie, but if you look at a lot of these world's strongest man competitors, a lot of them are gentle giants. Eddie's not. Eddie's a pit bull. I mean, Eddie will eat you alive. That's his personality. You just bullied his little child in front of a massive audience. Bullied a child. Now step back and look at all the stuff that's been in the media lately about bullying children online and suicides and stuff. I mean, realistically speaking, I don't care what your viewpoints are if you don't like the fact that the guy eats meat. Okay, fine. You don't like the fact that he sells crappy protein products. Hey, I'll agree with you there. We'll actually agree on that. Yeah, people selling crappy, terrible protein products, including the vegans who do it, by the way. Vegan strongman, whatever his name, Patrick Baboon or whatever his name is. Sure, he sells a garbage crap product too, promotes all these garbage vegan protein powders. That's just as bad. I agree, it's bad. And you know what? I wouldn't support Eddie Hall for selling this protein powder. I'm not interested. I think it's garbage too. But that doesn't take away from his accomplishments. That's fine. You want to hate on that? That's fair. You're attacking a garbage product, a garbage and unnecessary product. That's fine. That's acceptable. I would actually agree with that. He's in the right on that part. But using that as a reason to attack and belittle and make fun of someone's child in front of your whole audience? Are you, Richard, stop and think this through. Set aside your vegan brain and the way it's destroying your judgment. I want you to really ask yourself. I want you to stop, just step back for a moment and ask yourself. And I want his audience to ask themselves this question. Is a person who screams and pretends to be a bastion of morality because, oh, I'm vegan, therefore I'm the most humane, benevolent human being on the face of the earth, right? Because you don't like harm coming to things that you see as innocent. Do you really think that making fun of and bullying someone's child, it's not like a teenager, it's not a young man, his child, do you think that that's appropriate? Do you think that that makes you a good person? Like, do you look at yourself in the mirror and go, aha, I mean, I'm sure attacking this guy for selling protein powders by attacking and insulting and making fun of his child in front of a massive international audience? And I want people who watch Richard, who are fans of his, who are vegans, who think that they're moral people because they're vegans. All right, this is what you're supporting. You're supporting bullying little children because their dad sells a protein powder. Completely inappropriate, completely immoral. And I don't see how any reasonable or remotely compassionate person can endorse that. So, again, people like Richard who try to claim, oh, I'm so righteous and compassionate because of the animals, but you will cyberbully a little child. Richard, I'm just going to be honest. You're a piece of shit. You are a terrible piece of shit. And you really have to drop this whole thing of I'm righteous because I'm vegan. You're sadistic. And we've seen it. We've seen the way you treated your own dying grandfather. You filmed it. You're a sadistic, psychotic psychopath. The things that you have actually done to people on camera shows that you are really a shitty person. And I want you to think about that. I want you to think about that. And instead of me saying, hey, that's the way you are and you'll never change, you might step back and ask yourself, is this behavior make me a good person? Or should I be changing what I'm doing? Okay? I've had to do that. There are times when I've done stuff online and I had to step back and say, you know what? This doesn't make me a good person. I need to change my behavior. And I think Richard should do that. It's my personal opinion. And I would actually look at his fans and say, this is the stuff that you're supporting. And you honestly think that you're on the side of good when you're supporting a person who's literally this sadistic and cruel to other people because he cares about animal rights. It's okay to be cruel and sadistic to dying elderly people. It's okay to be cruel and sadistic to little children. But it's all okay because it's done in the name of veganism. It's being done in the name of an ideology that you think is just, therefore it's okay. That's your brain on veganism. It's a cult. It's an evil, sadistic cult. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.